I'm MANCE HARMON. I'm one of the founders of Hedera Hashgraph. Hashgraph is a consensus algorithm that is an alternative to blockchain. It has some superior properties which I will touch on, but basically it's incredibly fast. It achieves the very best security that one can achieve in the field of distributed consensus, and it has some properties such as fairness that don't otherwise exist in the market. Hashgraph has been being used for a couple of years on the permission networks, and we've addressed major customers, enterprise-grade customers in North America. Just a month ago, we were in New York City and introduced another part of the project here. Hedera Hashgraph is focused on public networks. We're building out a public network on the Hashgraph technology, and I'm here to talk to you about that this morning. So when considering what the problems are that need to be addressed in public networks in order to achieve mainstream adoption, I mean, I think it's noteworthy that after having been in the market for several years now, there still are no enterprise-grade applications running on any of the public networks. Well, why is that? We believe that there need to be improvements both in terms of the technology, its performance, also in security. If we're going to be processing trillions of dollars of value on these public networks, then we have to assume that they will be attacked, which means we need to start with the very best security that one can achieve at the algorithm level. We have to start with solid math. Stability, one thing we can all count on is that these networks that we're using today are going to fork into competing networks and associated currencies, and that creates chaos in the market. That has to be addressed. And then what's the right governance model? Hedera uses Hashgraph, and what that means is that we can achieve hundreds of thousands of transactions per second with just seconds of consensus latency, and I'm going to give more detail about that in just a few moments. In terms of security, Hashgraph, as I've mentioned before, achieves the very best that one can achieve in the field of distributed consensus. It's something called asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance. And basically what that means is that there are types of attacks that simply are not possible when you are asynchronous BFT as opposed to partially synchronous BFT or not BFT at all, which is the rest of the field. Hashgraph uniquely today achieves asynchronous BFT at scale. What about stability? Hashgraph as a platform, as a consensus algorithm, is patented. And everybody asks, why are you doing that? Well, what we're doing is making it possible to use the platform with no license. No license is required for developers that want to build product on top of Hedera. In fact, we won't even know what the products are being built on Hedera unless the developers decide to tell us what they are. We just don't have that level of insight. And the developers that use the platform can use any licensing scheme they want for their code. It's their code, and we don't encumber that in any way. With version 1 of the platform, we will make our code base transparent. We will release the source code. Anybody that wants to look at the source code will be able to do so, compile it, compare it to the node software that can be downloaded and run by those participating in the network. So full transparency. However, we're using the patent as a governance tool to ensure that the platform will not fork, therefore bringing stability to enterprise-grade customers, mainstream customers, for the very first time. We recognize that not everybody is going to want to build on a platform that is guaranteed not to fork, but we are providing for the first time that option. And so we're broadening the range of options to the developer community and making guarantees that we will prevent, insofar as we are capable, the platform from forking. What about governance? If we can solve all of those problems, then what's the right governance model? We have a council of 39 global blue chips. These are the very biggest and best brands in the world across 18 sectors, geo-distributed. This council will provide the governance for the platform, for at the subcommittee level, for marketing and PR and legal and regulatory and the technical steering committee, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're tapping into the expertise across all constituencies
that have an interest in such a platform, using that expertise to build a world-class organization that is the most distributed governing body of any platform in the market today. What is the platform? This is what it looks like. We have the internet, we have the Hashgraph consensus layer, which is the consensus that's been used in the enterprise market for a couple of years now. On top of that, cryptocurrency with native support for micropayments, file storage, distributed file storage, and we've taken the Ethereum virtual machine and put it directly on top of Hashgraph so that we have backward compatibility with all the Solidity scripts in the market. So that's version 1. This is feature complete at the end of this month with a network already running on 4 continents with about 20 different nodes of this governing council that I'm describing. And we have beta customers ready to begin development on the 1st of May. What about performance? In our tests, and by the way, all of this information is in a white paper on the website. You can go and download it. Just go to hashgraph.com. With AWS across 8 different regions, what we've demonstrated is 50,000 transactions per second with a 2.9 second consensus latency. That's not probabilistic. That's with 100% certainty on the order of transactions. It will never change, and it's strong enough that there's a math proof that can be taken to a court of law. If we scale up from 50,000 transactions per second to 100,000 transactions per second, the consensus latency only goes from 2.9 seconds to 3.4. If we go to a single continent, go across North America, what we've demonstrated is 250,000 transactions per second with a 3-second consensus latency. It turns out the bottleneck is not the algorithm. It's checking signatures, signature verification. If having to check 250,000 digital signatures on the transactions per second was hard. So we worked with one of the largest manufacturers of GPUs on the planet, one of the 2 big vendors. They actually wrote a library for us to do signature verification in parallel on GPU. They were able to achieve 1 million signature verifications per second. That eliminated the bottleneck. We expect to be able to achieve this type of performance when we launch the platform. So we've addressed the technology concerns. We have the best performance in the market. We have the best security in the market, bar none. You can objectively look at all the other platforms and all the other consensus algorithms. We uniquely achieve asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance at scale. And by the way, this scales through a sharding solution, meaning that there will end up being thousands of shards, and each shard runs hundreds of nodes in the network with an inter-shard messaging protocol that maintains the level of security across the entire planet. Most of the time, when you scale through sharding, the security gets degraded. If you start with asynchronous BFT to begin with, that building block, you can build a house that looks very different than everything else in the market. So we maintain asynchronous BFT at scale. We've addressed the problems associated with stability, but while maintaining open innovation with transparency in the platform. And then finally, we have a governance model that represents the constituency interests across all sectors in all geographies. Now, where are we in this process? We have commitments from more than half of the 39 members of this governing council. We expect to have the governing council completed in its formation later this summer, and we will be making announcements about who the members are of that council at that time. These are brands that you all will know. They represent the biggest companies. Each council member has at least tens of billions of market cap and brands that are globally respected. That was required. This council is meant to be trusted by mainstream markets to provide a platform that is stable and enterprise grade with the very best technology in the market, the best performance, and the best level of security. So that's it. We are Hedera. We are glad to be here and look forward to working with all of you in the coming months. Thank you.